Okay, so you've done all your cast on for your toque. In your case, it's going to be 48 stitches. And now it's time to join the work in the round. So let's say we did our class and you joined it in the round and you got knitting, and then you got home and you made a mistake that you just couldn't figure out, and so you needed to undo your work and start again. So this is going to again show you how we join that work in the round. So as you can see, you have your cast on edge and it's living in the middle of this circle, and you always want it to live in the middle of your circle when you are doing that first knit row. The reason being is that if it twists for some reason, if your work starts to twist, then when you get further down in your work, it's not going to go well for you. So you have your stitch marker, and again, your working yarn is to the right, and your scrap yarn is closer to your body. And so in knitting, we always knit left to right. So if I was going to be knitting, let's say something straight like a scarf, my working yarn would always live on my left needle, and I would just knit that way, and it would allow me to keep going in a straight line back and forth. But for the purpose of a toque, because we're knitting in a circle, you want that working yarn actually this time to the right of you. So what's going to happen is you're going to place your stitch marker on your right needle, and on your right needle, again, your working yarn should be moving away from you to the right, and your scrap yarn should be closer to your body. And all you're going to do is knit, but it's going to make it join as a circle. So again, you're sticking your needle, and as you can see, my tension's really tight on that one. So you're sticking your needle to the back, like we talked about for a knit stitch, wrapping over the back needle and going up and over and out the side. So you're just knitting in this continuous fashion. And I'm going to show you one other option as a trick. You don't need to do this. Sometimes when I'm working with really fine yarn, and I'm doing like a larger project, I will do this, but it's not necessary. So also knitting with big needles, the first row is always the hardest, because you're working with a bit of extra tension, and because in this case, these needles are so jumbo that like my little hands are just, they have to work a little harder. So this is the trick. If you want to ensure that you're not going to lose this scrap yarn that's attached, because it is actually just kind of hanging out, you can flip the needles over towards your body. Okay, and you would hold that last stitch that exists right before the stitch marker, and you can create a bit of a knot. So I keep holding this so that I don't wreck the tension, but then I create a knot and then I double knot it. And later when you're done your project, you can change this, but it just guarantees that you're holding that in place. So then you would flip your work back over. Now this kind of breaks the rule because your scrap yarn is sort of going to travel in a circle. So don't stress too much about the rule. It's just as a way to teach your brain that you're not going to accidentally end up grabbing your scrap yarn and knitting with it, because then you'll run out really quickly. So again, you can keep it as position like I taught you, but then you would just keep knitting, and now you don't have to worry about that stitch coming loose, because you'll see as you go through your circle, it stretches. That's nothing to stress about. And when we get to the end of our toque, I will teach you a way to sort of like tighten that up and make it look nice and seamless. But in the beginning, that's sort of what you're working with. So then you just keep knitting those stitches onto the toque and you finish your first row, and that's how you join your work in the round.